All right, ladies and gentlemen, you saw the title, so you already know what's going on. So yeah, this time we'll be doing things a little bit different. Today I'm joined by the bird that stays fly in any weather, a one angry bird, son. What's good?
Not much.
Ain't it the truth? And today we'll be talking about Fire Emblem Three Houses story or lack thereof. Now I'm pretty sure even among those Fire Emblem YouTubers, they've always said that they feel like there was a bit lacking in the story department, or they like to specifically bring up the Red Eagles. Yes, I said Red Eagles, and hear me out here. They keep calling them the Black Eagles, but the motherfuckers are currently always in some level of red. Their own house sigil and logo is red, and spoilers in case you guys are wondering where this video was going to go as if it wasn't obvious, Edgelord Edelgard is almost completely in nothing but red and gold, or dark gold, which is her house bird sigil colors. But I digress. I'd prefer to try to be somewhat constructive about it. I don't plan on Nintendo seeing this. I don't plan on Josija hearing this. In fact, even though I don't hate Josija or Claude, I am constantly aggravated by the comparisons of Claude and myself. Not because I look anything like Claude. Claude is basically a pretty boy with the personality of a schemer. But because Claude likes putting his friends in comical, awkward situations. He likes making puns and jokes around the short ones or the younger ones. And he likes to come up with schemes he's not really going to do just to see if someone will laugh, think they're funny, or a host of other things. So, I don't have a choice. So yeah, I have mixed feelings. That being said, Gold Ranger Squad for life. Okay, now that I got that out my system, because, Gold Ranger Squad is the best squad. I think that the story should have been a bit of a throwback as far as the structure. Now, Kelvin, let me take you back into an earlier time. We'll call this 1999 to 2001. Do you know what Fire Emblem game North Americans were first exposed to?
That's a hard one.
Yeah, because these motherfuckers ain't doing numbers and it annoys me. They did, it was called Fire Emblem Advanced. We didn't know what the
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm going back that far. Fire Emblem Advanced featured 3 lords. 2 boys, 1 girl. Already sound familiar, don't it? Now,
Yep.
these guys were companions and friends, and you got to play all 3 of them together through the whole game, for the most part. However, there were certain story segments, like any good game, where characters get divided up. Goes without saying. But see, here's the thing. The way that game worked is, you picked 1 lord, and that lord had their own story that fuses together and intersects and intertwines with the other lords, either because of a previous friendship or because mutual understanding and want of destruction of an enemy. And that's realistic. People who fight in wars or conflicts, they're not always there because they're racist or they hate the other guy. Sometimes they're there because they signed a contract and a fight broke out and there's nothing you can do. Some people, they're born in that area, so all they know is mercenary life and they have to live. Now, mind you, the level of depth in the dialogue is hard to find because, as with all Fire Emblem games, remember, the characters interact with each other based on their support levels. They usually go from C to A or C to S. But that means that you yourself can miss out on characters' depth if you don't get everybody into A or S. And let's be honest, who really does that on their first playthrough, or fuck, even their 5th playthrough? Nobody. You pick the characters you like, their support rank builds up. Then the next playthrough, you fuck with the characters you missed or you think you're curious about. The internet wasn't around to spoil shit back in the day. Or rather, the internet was around, but spoiling shit wasn't as easy as it is now. I think if they copy that model, people will be more interested and more engaged in how these stories ended. Basically, the stories were separate, but they intermingled, and then occasionally they separated, or by the end, the characters went to do what they wanted to do, and they accomplished it and they went about their life. But as you know, endings can change based on who does and does not like each other in Fire Emblems. Now, see, here's the thing. There was Lindis, but she was called Lynn in the story. Hector, and Elliewood. But here's the thing though. When you get to Three Houses, they tried to play the Pokemon Fates game, which was completely unnecessary. Now, for Three Houses, you get red, blue, gold. We all know this. Red basically becomes the bad guy, quote unquote, as long as you're not playing her side, which is led by Edelgard. But even when you play Edelgard's side, which has 2 split endings, it still feels like Edelgard doesn't realize she's still doing exactly what she's trying to stop. Creating a hierarchy where someone has more power or a group has more power than it needs or deserves. Yes, she did have some elements of wanting to, democratize things, but here's the problem. You're trying to get there by destruction. You're trying to get there by a little game I like to call Get Down or Lay Down. You ever heard that game, Kelvin?
Yeah.
And as we both know, Get Down or Lay Down works one way and one way only. Do as I say or die. The primary reason why this was thought to be an effective plan, it's not said but it's hinted at, is because if you notice in the story, Rhea, who's secretly the same, the ancient Saros or whoever that hero was in the beginning of the cutscene, Rhea is that person. They're the same entity, not a possession, not reincarnation. It's her. Dragons always age slow in Fire Emblem time. Flame is hundreds of years old, but she has the appearance of a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old. You are seeing that when she has dissension, big or small, her punishments oftentimes end with death. No questions asked. Early in the story and on all playthroughs, you learn that there's a section of the church that wants to break off, still believes in the god Sothis and whatnot, or whatever the god's name was who created everything, but does not want to follow Rhea specifically. They were not out to inherently kill and murder people, but they knew if you cross Rhea, she'll come down on you instantly with murder and fire, or fire and blood, if you get that reference. Basically, she pulled a Game of Thrones. Anytime you cross her, she's perfectly fine and normal, or she thinks she is. But the minute, the second, the hour she sees or finds dissension, Dracarys, motherfucker.
Yes, sir.
And the way the game is, it gives you options of saying if you do or don't disagree with it, but it doesn't really fucking matter, because the Church of Saros, Rhea is an absolute. Rhea is just an absolute. Of course, when you get to the Red Eagles playthrough, yes, that's right, I said it again, shit goes a little bit different. In fact, based on you being in Red Eagles, certain characters have different lines you're not going to come across, but we all know that. But it also applies to the Church of Saros people. In fact, and I'm going to just point this one character out before we get back into it. Hanneman says something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, but you can go look up the stuff, that he knows that no matter what happens or whoever's in charge, there will be bloodshed and blood loss. But because of what Edelgard wants to do after the blood has been shed and she got everything, he agrees with her side for the most part. Because remember, Hanneman's a very special character, and if you go through some of the story, you learn he's not just a scientist. Hanneman has a crest, so that always implied that he was in a noble house. But if you go through a lot of his story, you learn Hanneman left his house almost 20 years before the story even began. Bet you didn't know that.
He a real one.
And again, this whole thing is about spoilers. Hanneman lost his sister because his sister never produced an heir that had a crest. So her husband treated her like shit till she killed herself. That's how it was in his case. I won't get into every single Church of Saros character though, because that would take forever. But see, here's the thing. It should have led up to a point. That should have been the final arc of the story. Because remember, they like to do arc bullshit. Pre-time skip, first arc. Time skip, 5 years, second arc. Right, like 4 or 5 stage right before the last boss, third arc, which weird, but okay. Now here's what I'm thinking. You start off playing around with one house, or you get one house per arc, right? So you get to choose between who's your starting house still, but the story beats are the same. So what'll happen is, let's say hypothetically, you start off with Edelgard's house. So if you start off with Edelgard's house, you win the Red Eagles. You get the Red Eagle homies. You can get to know them just like the game, playing that Persona bullshit. You get to do all of that stuff still. But the Red Eagles notice that Rhea takes extreme measures for dissension that sometimes everyone feels, including the professor, don't fit the crime. But they all genuinely come to the consensus there's not anything we can do about it. But also, we're not sure if this is necessarily the worst option. This may be the most humane and safest option, because remember, if the dissension happened, they would come into this town, possibly kill innocent townsfolk. They'd still kill the knights, even if the knights don't necessarily agree with something Rhea did, because they're just following orders. Same with being a soldier. You don't have to agree with an order, but you have to follow it. At the end of this, Edelgard is working with shady people who were doing human sacrifices and shit like this and claiming she didn't know nothing about it. I'm like, motherfucker, it doesn't matter. If you hired them, you saw they were doing it, and you kept working with them, you're just as guilty. In fact, even if you didn't know, you're still just as guilty because you gave them the tools to be worse than they were. Right. So here's the thing. After that happens, we'll say 5-6 missions. You get to the dancing section where you get to make a dancer class. And whoever's that dancer stays with your house or stays with the professor. Edelgard's squad, Edelgard's training is going to be taken over at this point. Because remember, technically, any house you're not training is being trained by either Hanneman or Manuela. Manuela the Beautiful. No, let me just stop. Anyways, so what happens is there's a rotation built in. So now, after that's over, you got your dancer. You can go and see Manuela and Hanneman, and whichever one you talk to, you switch houses with them. Because we'll say Manuela was supposed to train in close range combat arts and healing, because that's what she gives lectures in. Hanneman is supposed to train in long range combat arts and reason magic, right? Because that's what he lectures in. And you pick up the slack for everything else, and Yuritsa's there too, who does remedial training, tutoring, but also he trains them in anything involving writing. So that way all of our bases are covered, because remember, Gerald dies. And Alois technically isn't a teacher, but he does do lectures. So they can come in and do training as well. So that way there's never a point in time where your character looks like they're out of place with their training shit, and neither do the other characters in game. But over time, what happens is, as you make sure you rotate people, even if they're not in your class, when you get those characters back in a time skip, because you're preparing for that, whatever rank they're in, if they've had any training in it, it goes up by 1. But, so now, hypothetically, you're done with the Red Eagles. Let's say you want to go to Blue Lions. Okay, first thing that happens is, you get a cutscene with Felix letting you know, hey, look, Dimitri's fucked in the head. He's danger to everyone around him, and he's just a dangerous person in general. He's a bore. And then he elaborates on why he calls Dimitri a bore. You know? Because when you talk to Felix and get the supports, that shit ain't really explained. But when you play Blue Lions, it is explained. Dimitri snapped and developed a raging, devilish, demonic side to him because he had to deal with so much death and destruction when he was innocent as a child. So he's become paranoid.
Man, what kind of Soul Calibur shit is that?
Basically, okay, so one day he was minding his own business, fucking around, and he was in a carriage. The carriage got ambushed, and he watched his mother die, who was also Edelgard's mother, and his father was killed. And somebody at some point in time told him, get revenge or avenge me or some shit. So one time, him and Felix, because Felix wanted some revenge too, because Felix's brother got murdered at some point too. There was a rebellion in their country. They went, and Dimitri started wiping out entire families by hand. Let's say you plotted against Dimitri's family and you were on the other side of this uprising, right? Dimitri killed you, your fucking child, your husband, and anybody who was in the immediate vicinity. And Felix is like, you've lost your fucking mind. But you got to remember, Felix didn't experience all of what Dimitri felt. Remember, Felix just lost his brother And he felt like his father was a terrible leader, even though his father was making sure that another rebellion happened. Like the whole reason Felix hates his father doesn't actually follow any logic. It just says he thinks his dad is a shit ruler, so he's a rebellious teenager. Well, here's the thing, though. No more rebellions happen, no.
Real shit.
And it doesn't explain why he specifically decided, you suck, Dad. Or at least whatever support that cues up in, I didn't see it. So, here's the thing. That's just one of those cool things that instead of it just being a support, it could lead directly into story elements. So, here's the thing. When you play as the Blue Lions, the part where you find out Edelgard is a traitor plays out a little bit differently. Because once you do find out, remember, you get like 2 weeks or you get a month to prepare for her ambush. Felix knew that knife that Edelgard was always wearing, because it's stupid. You know, all the characters are wearing another weapon besides their primary weapon on their drawings, but they never use them. That knife she got is a Blue Lion knife, and she got it from Dimitri when she was like 7. So he almost figures out it was her beforehand, but he didn't say anything. But then when he sees that mask come off, you get a whole nother cutscene of him trying to run after her and kill her ass on the spot. And he killed one dude, or rather crushed one dude's eyeballs with his bare hands when they tried to get in his way of killing her. And then right after that, he says, I will slaughter your entire family or something like that. I'm like, bitch, you're in her family. You're going to kill yourself?
Right? I was going to say that. I was like, man, this one big family feud.
And this comes before the time skip. So, like Felix said, Dimitri fucked up. He got a whole lot of anger and there's no place for it to go. So, basically the beginning arc is half your first house, that's Red Eagles in this case, half Blue Lions, because this is the part that leads up to the ambush. And after the ambush, remember, you fell into a dark canyon for 5 years. Now, you didn't get the Grey Wolf or Ashen Wolf DLC, did you?
Fuck no.
Very, very minute, small spoiler. So, supposedly Ashen House was always there. They just got allowed to live in the basement of the Church of Seros. So you can actually see the sewer system and whatnot while you're in the Ashen Wolf House, because the Ashen Wolf House is supposed to be basically a storage area, but people made makeshift beds out of there and shit. They sell stuff and goods, and it's supposed to be people that they don't have any other place where they can go in the entire continent of Fodlan where they're not going to get fucked with, right? Now in the DLC, which apparently isn't canon but somehow is, it was run by one guy, and this one guy was secretly found your mother's corpse. He's an archbishop, or he's just a regular bishop, but I forgot his name. But this guy found out that it wasn't aging, which made no sense. And as you know, throughout the course of the game, you find out Rhea was conducting experiments, which may or may not have been humane, with dragon hearts. That's why when you were born, which the game tells you all the time, and this is one of those things where it shouldn't have been DLC. Some of the story shouldn't have been DLC. Your character was born without a heartbeat because you didn't have a heart. But your mother's heart was put inside of you so you wouldn't die at birth. But your mother didn't even have her own heart. Your mother, Sothis' heart. Because remember, those crests that aren't actually crests, those glowing energy things that go inside the relic weapons, those are the hearts of dragons, apparently. Sothis' dragon heart is what was in the center of, well, for lack of a better term, probably you. It's not really shown if your character has any body scars or anything, but basically, your heart didn't beat, your temperature was different, and you almost never display emotional range. But because of your upbringing, that also sometimes gets utilized as an excuse. So that's why the main character is so fucking unusually dead inside. Obviously, they had to work this into the story because for some dumbass reason, unlike every other Fire Emblem game where lords and mercenary leaders have personalities, they decided to make this one Link, or in other words, a blank slate, which is a weird choice. Normally, the blank slate is the strategy of the game, with the exception of Fates. Awakening. Awakening was the only one where the strategist was a blank slate. And this followed over where it wasn't a blank slate. So every other game except Awakening is the strategy and tactician is the blank slate. But this time, you're a mercenary and you're just not a character. You're Link. And I know that sounds fucked up. Why are you shitting on Link? I don't hate Link, but they said Link was designed to be basically an avatar for the people playing the game. Yet they never
Link.
Yet they never make a female Link. Personally, I hate Zelda, but that we can get into that another day. So here's the thing, though. You fall into a cavern, and you're gone for 5 years. So this is keeping you. Here's an idea. Why don't you wake up on the 4th year, not remember who you are, and you're in the Ashen Wolf house, because it was underground, remember? They were looting corpses, or they got charged with burning the bodies of the deceased. And not only did you wake up, but you went back to sleep, and they don't understand how you're still alive because you didn't eat food or nothing like that. And they kept your body clean. And then they try to remind you this is who you are, but they don't know who you are. But over the course of, we'll say, 3 or 4 missions, and people running into you from the Blue Lion's house on the battlefields, you remember who you are. And that's where you find Dimitri. Because here's how fucked up Dimitri is. Dimitri started hallucinating. Whoever caused the rebellion, they didn't stomp them all out. So when he went back home, he got accused of like treason or something, and he was supposed to get publicly hanged or beheaded. But he got away and he lost an eye. So when you come up the stairs and you see these corpses and there's Dimitri like, oh my God, you're back to haunt me again. Another mistake I can't rectify. He literally doesn't register that you're a real human. So this is when I start going from, oh, you're just that cliche homicidal maniac. You know what? Why is there you know what? I don't know why they keep making him a high lord or a lord class. This bitch need to be a berserker class. Ha 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 ha. This is when that switch flipped like, oh shit, no. Dimitri actually has depth. Yeah, he's an angry, raging maniac, but he's not to the point of being a cliche. He's just haunted by his demons, and he thinks it feels like he's haunted by his demons, and if he brutally murders people and gets the revenge he seeks, he will not be haunted by his demons. He really just wants to not be haunted by his demons, which are usually the screams and cries of people that he watched get murdered, or people he loved and trusted be murdered. He can't escape the war, though, because the war never left his brain and his soul. And they even
so essentially he has PTSD.
Yeah, but it never goes away. Most PTSD, and speaking from experience, don't ask, it comes and goes based on triggers, or certain words can trigger instead of actions instead of things that you see. His doesn't ever stop to the point of him thinking he hallucinates. So when everybody gets together, even Gilbert, they try to tell him like, look, we want to help you and the professor, but listen, you two fucking messed up. You do need help. And he's like, I don't care what the fuck you guys do. Do what you want to do. I only want to find Edelgard. Y'all can go team up and squad up and help people in the area. And if you actually go and talk to Felix, who's watching him the whole time, because you already know how Felix feels about Dimitri. Like, I need to watch you to see if I need to kill you, or I need to watch you to make sure you don't go past that line in my presence.
Just run that nigga fade, man.
But it might not help. It might just make him decide Felix is an enemy and try to kill him and shit. But anyways, so Felix said, look, can you go talk to Dimitri or something? He was always angry, but now he's barely human. That's a paraphrase, but that's kind of what he says. And that's when you start thinking, man, this dude really is fucked up. Like, the whole entire tone of Dimitri is completely different from the rest of the game. And it's almost weird because the game wants to hide bloodshed, impalements, and crap like that. Here's Dimitri talking about slaughtering entire families and shit. You know? Talking about him almost getting beheaded and losing his claim to the throne, not because he was dethroned, but because he got lied on and was lied on about being treasonous. And it didn't help that Edelgard was his stepsister. That meant that any leftover dissenters and people who attempted a coup, they could use that against him. And from what it looked like, it succeeded. I don't know. I played a lot of the shit in a weird order. Like I took my time with Golden Deer, but then before Blue Lions, I also went directly into the Ashen DLC. Anyways, okay, so you get to a point where we'll say Edelgard finds out your ass is still alive and your ass is around. So what you decide to do is get help from Claude. And even though Claude's whole squad is in, areas in turmoil, because remember, they're an alliance of organized leaders. They don't have a kingdom. What can happen is you can find a mediator. So let's say Shamir, because Shamir's good at self, and she's technically, they bill her as an assassin, but she's never the assassin class. Shamir goes in and she investigates and she bumps into Judith, Now, you may not remember Judith, but Judith shows up really, really early before the time skip. And she's basically a legendary hero in the Golden Deer Alliance. So, Shamir bumps into Judith, or you bump into Judith over the course of whatever next mission you get. Let's say the Ashen Wolves have a secret path that can get you past her enemy line into, Golden Deer territory, so you can try to find Claude or noble houses and whatnot. But here's the thing. Judith, not realizing that she's being betrayed, goes to try to meet you and the professor, because there's the bounty on the professor's head now, because if there's one person Edelgard fears, it's the professor. Because as far as she's concerned, professor is one of the most dangerous people alive, with or without a crown. So if I can't get you on my side, then you need to die. And if you play the game normally, that's kind of how she thinks. If I can't get the professor with me, then she can lay down, or he can lay down. Get down or lay down still in effect, remember? So they say, oh, I'm going to get your head and Judith's head, and she'll spare my house because my house barely has any food, blah, blah, blah. Supplies take too long because we're too far away from the Alliance, but we're also connected to Edelgard's land, because there is a land that is connected to Edelgard's land, but, it's still considered Alliance. But they're the furthest away from the table, so you know how that goes. Last person to eat is always the first person to backstab. So
facts.
You show up with the Ashen Wolves and some of your members. So then what happens is you notice as once you save Judith, oh no, this is only part 1 of that mission. Part 2, everybody I brought with me as bodyguards or security getting ambushed too. And then it's Golden Deer House members that you recruited, or Golden Deer House members that are going to move the story along and show you how to get to Claude. So now what's going to happen is Blue Lion House is going to team up with Claude. But what's going to happen is Blue Lion is going to focus on reconstruction of Garrick Mach, which they say happens in a time skip, but you never see Garrick Mach change what it looks like. Oh, we're supposed to be cleaning and organizing because all the knights came back, but no one ever fucking cleans Garrick Mach. It barely even looks different after the 5-year time skip, even though there was a war there. But I'm not going to get into that weird possible graphic plot hole. So now what can happen is any soldiers you don't bring with you, they can be training in the game's background, or they could be improving the Garrick Mach facilities and trying to revive things that used to be there. That way everyone's doing something and they can gain something, instead of just the people you bring with you on a mission. So if they're not going to level, they can get rank points. Because remember, you can do flying security, horse and riding animal management, or you could do weeding, which is a little weird. That weeding one throws everything off, but you could do that. But now add like food procurement and harvesting and cultivating plants, because you got a greenhouse anyway, might as well use it. So now the students are picking up all types of skills, and it could even eventually lead to unlocking character-specific abilities or ranking up your weapon. I don't know how ranking up your weapon would work, but hey, it's video game. Video game logic is in effect. So now you're basically Golden Deer, or at least the story portrays you hanging out with Claude and Dimitri on the same squad. And the story progresses that way. Eventually, you end up meeting Hubert. And you try to kill Hubert. I fucking hate Hubert. If they ever made a DLC where Hubert could be obtained and be playable as a recruit permanently, I would recruit him just to let him die permanently in my fucking game.
I mean, he looks like a fucking person you really hate.
Dude. Yeah, actually, yeah, he does. But dude, his dialogue implies he is an uncaring dick. There are times when something happens and he's like, oh, well, I hope the worst possible thing happens. It was just a joke. You can't take a joke, Professor? Bitch, I don't know you. Literally, you're not in my class. You're not one of my students. I see you in the hallways, but there's no proof that I train you. Why the fuck would you make some jokes and shit like that? And then my favorite one, when your dad dies, Hubert is around in the teacher's lounge of all places. It was called the common room, but it's the teacher's lounge. How the fuck are you in here, Hubert? And he says, like, I'm not really good with sentimental statements after someone died. You literally tell me I ain't got shit to say to you now that your dad's dead. Like, fuck Hubert. I hate that character. And that voice actor, let me tell you, I don't know his name. Try to look it up for me when you get a chance. I don't know the name of the dude who voice act Hubert, but you did a good job, because now when I hear your voice in anything else, I think this motherfucker gonna backstab everybody in the goddamn room.
And he put some work in that shit.
Yeah, seriously, like when you get a chance, look up that dude's name because I want to personally thank him in this video. Shit. So, anyways, Hubert, who organized the backstab, was there. That's why he was there. He runs off because Hubert always runs off until the fourth time or third time you see him and kill his ass. Fucking pussy. Everyone else dies when you first meet him. No, Hubert pusses out. Oh, I need to make a tactical retreat. Bitch, I just hit you with a nuke. It's called Lysithia. Anyways, so now...
Wait. Do you want the Japanese or the English one?
English.
Robbie Damon.
Damon. Wow. Name based off the son of the devil. Okay. Mr. Damon, I commend you on your vocal feats in Fire Emblem Three Houses. You made me feel like if Albert Wesker from Resident Evil, specifically, the later games, which is voiced by DC Douglas, if Albert Wesker was put in a Fire Emblem world, Hubert felt like he would damn near be that character. Fuck your voice. But god damn are you good at your job. Anyways,
real shit.
Anyways, back to business. So, all right. So now what happens is you get to somewhat work with these other characters you might have missed from your story or from pre-time skip and possibly recruit them. Because first off, this whole concept of having a time limit on when you can recruit somebody, that's weird. That's like exclusive to this version of Fire Emblem. Every other time it's if you don't get them on this stage, you don't get them. Or if you kill them in this stage, you don't get them. That's usually how it is. But this shit was weird. You're on a timer, essentially. I'm basically doing away with that. But what I'm doing is I'm making windows of time, not just a certain early part of the game where you can get these characters. So every character from the Gold House, you can get a mission, 2 missions, a special mission, where you can ask to utilize the characters you haven't seen in a while, or characters who you haven't personally trained because you want to see if they're up for the war. Because they could have been held captive or they could have just not been participating in the fight, but they change their mind once the backstab happens. We'll say you can get 3 or 4. So you can never get everybody all in one playthrough early in the game. Because first off, you're not going to know how to manage all that shit, really. Especially on the first playthrough. So now, you've got the entire Red Eagles house. But let's say half of them stayed with you after the time skip. The other half you're going to meet up with later in the third arc. You got all of the Blue Lions house because their job is to basically make up for if any characters died or if you are in a situation where your characters are too underpowered. Here's the time skip Blue Lions characters and you get them all. They're the only ones where you get everybody. But some people won't do certain missions, like Dimitri will only do a mission if, Claude is there and Felix is there or something like that, even if they're not paired up, something like that. Until eventually you get to a point where you can just take him and he can be trusted by himself. Because everyone in the Blue Lions house says that, look, Dimitri, your head is in a space of nothing but darkness.
Kill him!
Basically. Kill them all! Also, did you play the Golden Deer route?
No.
The way he dies in the Golden Deer route is so sad. Because Claude does not want to kill him. And Claude doesn't actually kill him. Do you remember that cutscene where they play the Kill Them All game? Well, yeah, Edelgard was there too. Well, Edelgard runs when she realizes, oh fuck, I'm losing. Dimitri chases her on foot. So her entire squad throws spears and bows at him and impales him where he stood until they waited for him to literally stop being able to run and then just fired back on him with spears, rods, and shit and impaled him. That's how he dies in Golden Deer. He couldn't stop being angry.
I got it.
Yeah, he couldn't stop being angry. But here's the thing though, they don't even show you that in the fucking game. You just have to see it in the text bubble. That's how Dimitri died. What the fuck?
That's probably why I just totally forgot about it. I was like, wait, I didn't even know he died because the shit was in text and not shown to me.
But when Edelgard dies, you got a whole fight sequence beforehand. There's a little bit of a dialogue if a lord talks to her before they fight or if the teacher talks to her before they fight. Dimitri, He's on the map. Man, Dimitri's going ballistic. He can't tell friend from foe. We need to knock him unconscious to make sure he stops. And then you knock him unconscious, but it still looks like you killed him. But he wakes up, and he just goes and tries to chase her down because he saw that she was leaving. First off, Dimitri's on foot, but Dimitri had people in his squad that were on horseback. Also, where the fuck was everyone else for Blue Lion's house? Literally, when you play Golden Deer, you don't see anybody from Blue Lion house.
That's because you already knew off rip that the Blue Lions was problematic. It was a problematic group.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing though. Dimitri and also his the only other person you see is his butler person who's too obsessed with him, Dadao. I call him Dadao because Doo seems like a disgusting name to name a dark-skinned person, but I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, so I say Dadao. Dadao shows up and he's with them too. He's like, I'm sorry, I want nothing but revenge on Edelgard. I can't join your team. I would be a reckless. He basically said, I'm going to turn to Dimitri. I would be bad for your team. But he never does. Even in the story, he's still peaceful. He's just sad. But it says, I can't join you because I'd be too angry. Shit like that. And you meet him 3 more times in the game. He even snuck up on Edelgard's castle or throne room while you were in there right before you kill her. He shows up once you get to the center of the map as an automatic NPC that pretty much can't be killed because his defense is too damn good. I'm like, motherfucker, just let me recruit him. What the fuck? Also, he doesn't even explain where is the other Blue Lion House members, because the game doesn't say, that at least that I've seen, if the other Blue Lion House members died because they wouldn't get down or lay down because of get down or lay down, or if they just went into hiding. It doesn't clarify. Did they die before the 5-year time skip in the giant ambush? Nothing gets stated. Fucking Dimitri doesn't even tell you. You meet some of them on the map when you first get, when everybody comes back after the time skip to have one giant combat brawl like you did earlier in the game. But once you fight them, no one ever said you need to kill them in class. So you say you can incapacitate them. We don't need to kill our old classmates. And it's implied that that's what you did. Because if you didn't, why is the Dow still alive to tell you fucking Dimitri got himself killed? He didn't say anyone else died. He wouldn't even mad at you that anyone else died. It's stupid and it's completely not put in check. If I'm wrong though, someone tell me in the comments, because if I missed that, I'm mad, because I hate when important story elements in Fire Emblem Three Houses, specifically this game, when really important story elements that could have been visualized or could have been going into detail get explained in one sentence. I fucking hate that. I really do.
It's almost like lazy storytelling.
Yeah, it is. And here's the one that bothers me more than anything. I've taken screenshots of it. I'm going to probably try to put them up in this video throughout the course of the video, where someone's talking and you're supposed to make a player choice, right? A concept that Nintendo still doesn't understand. And I'm not saying it as a joke. They don't understand this shit. And here's the thing. There's only one option on the screen. There is no way to get a second option. There's not some super secret thing you have to do or support you have to get a second option. There's just one option of selectable text on the screen. Why?
Hey, we have multiple things to have you push, but just push this only one thing.
Do you go in your refrigerator, and if there's literally only one thing in your refrigerator, and you know what's there before you enter the refrigerator, do you decide if you're gonna take it out or not once you open the refrigerator, or before you even fucking got the fuck up?
Before you got the fuck up.
If I give you a pie, and before I gave you the pie, I took out all the filling, are you really eating a pie, or are you just eating crust?
Man, you just eating crust, man.
That's the only way I can describe that stupid shit, because it makes me think
they gave you all fluff and no stuff.
True. It makes me think that they were planning something, but someone came up behind them and said, ain't nobody got time for that, or something stupid happened and they decided, you know what? Yeah, this makes perfect sense. This is cool and logical. The players are going to love this. No, we don't love this. Stop it. Nintendo, not even Nintendo, Intelligent Systems or whoever made most of the Fire Emblem games, hey, look. I know that the lead creator of Fire Emblem left the company. He didn't like the direction the shit was moving in. But to be fair, hey, look, your shit was hard. You didn't want to find a balance. And they're getting close to finding a balance over the years with how they do shit now. So you got a right to be mad if you wanted to be extremely technical and really, really hard. I don't care. Here's the thing, though. That guy's gone, and he's been gone. And at this point, he hasn't worked on the majority of Fire Emblem games. So that means we got new blood or old blood that was just like him, who was there from day one, working on this shit. And after all these years, all the deep storytelling that they've been doing in the little text boxes, because, hey, Fire Emblem can go to some dark places about human nature, let alone war. Because war is almost never glamorized in any Fire Emblem game. And y'all can't even fucking figure out how to play the Mass Effect game, which was on Nintendo Wii U. Still want a collection on the Switch, by the way. Which was on Nintendo Wii U. And you can't figure out option select in Fire Emblem. But you can figure out option select in Legend of Zelda, Star Fox, F-Zero, which they won't bring back because they're fucking cowards. Yeah, I said it. They won't bring it back because they're cowards. It's not because it sucked. It's because they're cowards. I'm not even joking. I am under the belief, until Nintendo tells me otherwise, that the reason we will not get new F-Zero is because Nintendo is scared to make an F-Zero game. Anyways, yeah, and even to a way lesser extent, Smash Brothers. You tell me you can figure out option selects and hidden pathways on that shit. But when you get to Fire Emblem Three Houses, you legitimately can't figure out how to make a story option select that has more than one option. It's not an option select if there's not more than one options. It's destiny at that point. Oh my fucking god. Legend of Zelda has been built on trying to make it so the player can freely explore or go around areas before they realize its importance, or just if they have a curious nature. Breath of the Wild being one of the biggest examples of that. This game went into production about, I think, not even a full year after Breath of the Wild. So what in the actual fuck is the problem? What is causing shit like this to happen? I can promise you, I have at least 20 situations from multiple playthroughs each where an option select shows up and there's only one option. Am I missing some support level that'll unlock more options? Or is there genuinely a fucking issue with the story development? Probably.
I really feel like it's they come across these issues due to time constraints.
I think it's just stupidity. Because remember, they've had missable characters and dialogue in every single Fire Emblem game. And they knew how to handle it. It was never mismanaged. But when we get to Three Houses, you can't make more than one option in a place where you put the option. If it was a time issue, they can go back and take out the option and just make it regular text.
That's fair.
But they didn't do that. So I'm at a point where I'm just like, this shit isn't even funny no more. This is just depressing. This makes no sense. And here's the thing. That's what triggered me rewriting the organization, so to speak, of the story. That's what triggered it. I kept seeing that and I kept thinking, what would have to happen for this to not happen? Because this is stupid. Well, someone would have to take a different writing approach to this story. So there's a more clear and concise, system involved with all these characters, including the professor. And that's why we're here. But yeah, so I don't know what happens to the Blue Lion house. If someone actually knows what happens to the Blue Lion's house in the Gold Squad playthrough, Gold Ranger Squad playthrough, let me know. Because last I checked, when Claude said we don't have to kill anybody, we just need to get, to Edelgard, and Dimitri's still losing his shit. Okay, let's go incapacitate them and shit. I don't think it actually said that they were killing them. And if they did, why would Dedao, after 5 years of not seeing the professor, who he didn't even really get instructed by, go out of his way to fucking say, I would join you, but I'm too much of a liability, and then show up at the throne room to help you out and say, I'm here for revenge, I'll help you when I can, where I can, and shit like that. That means that the writing was stupid it was incoherent on a fundamental level. So yeah, now what happens is, we'll say Edelgard, to get back on track, Edelgard, after, you go and recruit those extra people from the Gold Ranger squad that you couldn't get before, or wasn't going to be able to recruit before, you have to take a simple backtrack before you can get a plan together. Because Dimitri finds out that Edelgard found out about the Abyss. That's the name of the area. It's a basement, but they call it the Abyss. And she's trying to ransack it because she thinks that there are crest weapons or crest technology there that they missed when they first raided or destroyed Garrick Mach. Only to find out, no, there are secret hidden crest users. And that's when you find out all the characters, the 4 characters from Ashen Wolf House were crest users. They were hiding that because they didn't want to be involved in the war. Because no matter what happens, even after the war, they have no guarantee that they're going to be safe. That's why they stayed in there, and that's why they could avoid all the mess, But Dimitri ran off ahead of everybody because he's Dimitri. So when you get there, it becomes a mission of, you see Edelgard and you got to save Dimitri before Edelgard kills him. Or he kills himself by trying to get to, Edelgard, because he's proven just by going through the Gold Deer House that he will basically literally run himself to death and do stupid things and be reckless if it means he can even get a chance at killing her. So what happens is, halfway through this mission, the Black Knight shows up. And the Black Knight tells everybody, guess what? The nuke we launched is coming. Because I don't know, well, you beat one story mode, but here's the thing. You find out, remember, the underground people who aren't the Abyss, but the underground people, the descendants of whatever they were called, I can't remember what they were called. Those who slither in the dark. That's the only name I remember because that shit is hilarious. Oh no, it's those who slither in the dark. Damn you, those who slither in the dark.
That's fucking hilarious.
I know. It's like those who in the dark. Kanye? Fuck. So, basically, he lets everybody know there's a nuke. Or there's a giant missile coming. Now, instead of telling you should run, because that made no sense for him to say that, it's because he thinks you're a challenge. You want to fight? You're like, bitch, he has giant robots he can fight. He can fight Edelgard if he wants. He can fight Dimitri. You don't have to fight the professor. He just randomly decided the professor is the one he has to kill. What the fuck for? It makes no actual sense. If anything, he should have been out to Gerald.
Went on his own side mission.
Yeah, there's if anything, he should have been out to Gerald. And he's not in the game. He's hanging out with the bad guy, so he has no idea if Gerald is alive or dead. He should have been trying to come after Gerald, but he never does. He comes after you. So, fucking, he comes, and here's the thing though. He tells you, hey, Edelgard also has Lady Rhea here. Dimitri tells you that. So, half the team, the people in your squad, they go and try to rescue Dimitri, deal with the Black Knight, try to get Dimitri, stop Edelgard, because Edelgard ran down the room right behind the Black Knight because she was on foot, tell people, hey, look, we gotta go. A nuke's coming. Because, remember, she can't control those who sit in the dark. They do shit behind her back. Right? And Hubert's there. So Hubert actually frees Dimitri. But Dimitri immediately tries to kill him and succeeds. But while he's dying, unlike that letter that makes no sense how that letter even got to your main character once Hubert dies, he tells you in his dying breath, look, this is who they are. They're sending the nuke. I'm going to warp as many of you out of here as I can. Tell Edelgard I'm sorry and I love her. Admitting that he's capable of being a human. And that's how you find out, okay, this is what happened. And remember, everyone's there. Because first off, all the leftover Red Eagles people, if you have any, they don't want Edelgard to kill Dimitri. Not because Dimitri was a friend, kinda, but because killing Dimitri would make this war worse. Because if Dimitri is found to be committing treason in his home country for siding with you, but if you give the head of Dimitri back to whatever country, Fargas or whatever, that Dimitri lives in, and telling them he tried to take your life, his whole nation is going to go into a civil war on top of you trying to take them over. And you're going to make the situation worse. You're going to do things that Rhea would not have even thought of. But right before anything can happen, we show up, Dark Knight shows up, about the nuke, all that shit. Right? Because you secretly had an inside man. We'll say it's Dorothea. Edelgard didn't know that Dorothea was playing her or was secretly on the professor's side. Because remember, Dorothea is a special character. She's in that entire group, but she's one of the few characters that isn't from a noble house or a noble bloodline or comes from a lot of money. Dorothea is an orphan, essentially. She is the relative. She's half nobility. She's a bastard, and her dad just fucked the maid and then kicked the maid out when the kid was born.
I mean, in order to beat your enemy, you gotta know him.
Yeah, but the way the story starts off, it makes you think that she's doing a stereotypical system that's very common in North American women of hypergamy. And supposedly,
of course,
like what it means. Supposedly, hypergamy is more common in every civilized country, but it has a name and is more pronounced, at least in North America, which is a totally shallow, fucked up system. Is kind of what lords and nobles and kingdoms were founded on for growth. I'm a king. You want to marry my daughter? What do? Oh, I make bread. Get your ass out of here, nigga.
Hey, get the fuck out of here. You make bread, nigga? Fuck out of here.
Oh, you mean you make money? No. I take yeast and I take some water and grain. Get the fuck out of here. You know what you can be?
Want that shit, jester. Nigga?
You can be a court jester. That's what you can be, bitch. Like, that hypergamy had existed before it truly had a name. And the problem is that there is almost nothing that teaches people. You can't force someone to change their mind. And how does that tie into this? That's exactly what Edelgard's trying to do. She wants to force the changing of minds. And then she's starting to do shit that even Rhea wouldn't do, or Rhea used to do. But also, she's working with a group of people who don't give a fuck about the rules. Because they think they're in the right. So fuck the rules. But here you are doing the same shit. You are about to kill the leader of a kingdom who not only wanted to kill you because you kept trying to kill him, but even when he left you alone because he had to deal with his own rebellion and was in hiding, couldn't even fucking live and sleep anywhere, was sleeping in the forest and the woods, and now you want to kill him because he won't bow down before you. Bitch, do you not understand chicken and the egg? He's angry at you because you kept trying to kill him. You made his life worse. And because you stop and think about it, if Dimitri succeeded, he still doesn't get his kingdom back. He will still have to go through a whole nother war. But as you can see, blind rage. But here's the thing. Edelgard doesn't know what she's done to Dimitri. She didn't know that she did that to Dimitri. So maybe she's starting to rethink her plans. Hubert already rethought the plans. Like, hey, look, as soon as this is over, we need to take out those who slither in the abyss. Or those who slither in the dark. We need to take their ass out. Hubert's an asshole, but he ain't stupid. So obviously, she's in over her head, but now she's realized, I can't go back now. Everyone got split up in the explosion. No one knows if Edelgard is dead or alive. And when your whole crew takes Dimitri back, Rhea's back, Dimitri somewhat calms down. Okay? So Dimitri is now in a state where he can be, spoken to and understand and not willfully ignore people. And we'll just say, for the sake of this story, whoever had the highest rank on Dimitri, if it's not the professor, they become his wife or they become his lover. And Dimitri calms down because he's found a love he can trust. If it were me, I would say Dorothea, because Dorothea is in a unique position. But at the same time, Dorothea has zero interactions with Dimitri in the game.
She finna be fucking the shit out of him.
But the thing is that Dimitri's calmer, and now him and Claude get access, because the game didn't really explain it correctly, It was just, oh, Claude gets a piece of paper, and this piece of paper says he can now be a different class that is exclusive to him, which made no sense. And we'll say that Dimitri renounces his title of a lord, and he decides to become a warlord. So a warlord, the way they'll function is, he just decided that in the event of a war in the Fordland, he is the supreme general, or he is the head general of any efforts to stomp out any evil. So even when he's not on the battlefield, when he gets old, he knows how to direct people on it. So now he's paved the way to become a tactician, like the main character, who's technically a mercenary, but it could end with him after the time skip in the story credits roll saying Dimitri giving up all of his title, gave the kingdom over to Felix's dad and his wife, because he was just done with politics and all of the shit that with kingdom. Because how is he going to serve the people who straight up said that he should have died for shit he never even did? And he's the one who is in Garrick Mach and decides it gets rebuilt and shit, because he's decided he's going to be the principal. He's going to co-principal with Lady Rhea, you know? And, you know, just in case, you know, if you don't get Dorothea or he doesn't have a love option, hey, he marries Rhea. Because if anybody can calm down a raging beast, it's a literal raging beast. So after that happens, that's when we get to the third arc. So now, Claude reported back to his alliance. Dimitri followed up with his recruits, and the word is spread that Dimitri's not dead, because, you know, Edelgard sent out the letter she was going to behead him, and then people found out the beheading didn't go as well. But now people think that giant explosion was caused by her, and it's not wrong. So now she's got to deal with a possible civil outbreak. But right when that happens, your characters have all squatted up and they're knocking on the throne door. That's when you get the part where Dedal comes back, finally. Because Dedal was missing in this whole thing, because remember, for this story, he doesn't find, Dimitri for the whole 5-year time skip. Now I know, oh shit, he's coming at the last minute. Well, look, there's still 6 chapters left. So, first chapter of the final arc, you basically dead Edelgard. That's when Edelgard tells you where those who slither in the dark are, and that look, despite how you feel about me, these guys are 10 times worse. I was going to try to kill them when this was over. And then right when she tries to apologize, Rhea or Dimitri or both chop her head off. And then you get the option of saying if you accept her apology, or if fuck this bitch. And that can somewhat change the ending a little bit, but not by much. So after that's over, Rhea explains everything with you and your body and your God power shit. And you got to stop this guy, because when you get to that final area, in that science area, he shows up at the last minute and you understand everything because Rhea explains it. And Rhea transforms into the dragon, so everyone knows everything that Rhea is, that ancient story, and all of this is truly happening. And fuck, this dude legit might take over and fuck up the whole world. He's bringing people back from the dead. So now, everyone who's in the Church of Saros, playable characters, they give a final teaching lesson. This gives everyone the chance after a month to get one class upgrade, no cost, on the spot, guaranteed for free. Now, except the main characters, because remember, you're the enlightened one and you stay that way. You don't get anything. I still keep it that way. But Claude can get his Barbarossa class. The High Lord is now the Warlord, like I said. But now, here's something you didn't find out. Edelgard shows up, which makes no sense because she's dead. Turns out, Edelgard was dead, but she got experimented on by those who slither in the dark as well. But her experiment was more of life preservation shit, which is what they've been trying to specialize in. So they gave her the blood of a dragon. Now I know what you're thinking. What, blood of a dragon doesn't magically just make you able to survive and regenerate a head or last hundreds of years? Kinda. See, your dad almost died before the game happened, close to 70 years ago. Lady Rhea gave Geralt some of her blood, and it healed his wounds, and it slowed his aging down. Your dad in game is actually over 100 years old. Didn't know that, did you? So here's the thing. But she says that she doesn't know how long she can maintain, because the dragon crest they used was a dragon of healing, but a head was too hard to regenerate. Plus she had to dig herself out of a funeral pyre, and she ran off because she didn't know if she was going to get killed or not. But she chose to come back, try to kill them in secret, and that's when you found her on the mission. And for these last 3 missions, she's back. You can't recruit her. She's just in your party. You can do a side missions and shit with her. You can level her up and shit, but every interaction with her is going to be negative or just her in a jail cell after the end of every mission or every day, and various people talking to her. But if Rhea talks to her, or you keep having Rhea guard her, Edelgard can live. But it's bittersweet because at the end of it, Edelgard still dies because the second crest she got, much like Lysithea, was killing her. But unlike Lysithea, who had Hanneman doing research on how to separate her two crests or fix her lifespan for 5 years, she wasn't so lucky. But she does die. She's not given a giant seeing funeral. She's buried on a hill, and students came up in a line to say their goodbyes, and you're the last person to say your goodbye. But if she does live, she chose to self-outcast herself and goes across the sea and decides she wants to live on Altea, the first homeland of the first era of the first game where Martha's from. She chose to go to the Altean kingdom and just live out her days, however much time she has, and try to do better. The Red House is left in charge of Ferdinand von Ayer, the guy who said that he always wanted to try to surpass her because he saw her as a rival. Dimitri falls in love, becomes a warlord, like I tell you, but there's almost no need for him to be the warlord, so he spends most of his time doing monster execution. Because you find out in the game that Marianne is descendant from the guy who was the monster crest, and he's never actually dead. So it's basically getting rid of monster extermination, because monsters are huge. Claude got what he wanted. Everything is democratized. And I get to fuck Manuela. The end. But you see, the way I got it, everybody, the whole story mimics how the structure of Fire Emblem Advance.
Yeah. And it's a very convoluted story. And that you did.